Nara hoki tātou katoa e te iwi, e te whānau koutou e mā takitaki mai nei tēnei punua pāho ko te Kura Arotea. Can we talk for a minute? And it's my pleasure to have these two beautiful wahine joining with me today to have a kōrero about wahine. So, of course, e te whānau, before we have a kōrero about wahine, I just want to introduce our manuwhiri and get them to share with us about, the mahi that they do. And then we'll get stuck into this conversation e te whānau. Nō reira, ko te manuwhiri tuatahi, ko Jess Kraenzlin, orina Jess, or tēnā koe Jess. I'm not sure if you fellas are watching in the morning or in the afternoon. Welcome to tēnei pūnoa pāho. Can you please explain ko wai koe, no whea koe, hea tō mahi?
Ai, tēnā koe, tēnā korua, tēnā koutou, he uri tēnei no te ati haunui a paparangi no ngā pui. No whaingaroa hau engari kei whatawhata hau e noho ana, ko Jess tōku ingoa. My name's Jess. I grew up in the beautiful town of Whaingaroa. I know, it's a great place to grow up. My whānau were part of a crew that started the recycling centre out there, so I'm a community kid through and through. My mum is a counsellor and she was just, sick of whānau having to travel over the hill to get kai parcels and things like that. So she started the food bank there and, I've just been brought up around that. So it's only natural for me that I went and studied and have also pursued a career in counselling. I think that, calling it a career or having it as a job, I think it's more of a calling to be with our people, to sit with our people and to be in a space that promotes healing and wholeness and hauora. I'm a mama as well. That's me.
Awesome. Yeah, the perfect candidate for this conversation today. Thank you very much, Jess. And we also have Natasha, who is rejoining us for another episode. Welcome back. No mai hoki mai. For our whānau, you didn't catch that previous episode. Whakamārama mai, ko wai koe, no whea koe, sa hako mai.
Yes, kia ora tātai. I come from the metropolis of Whaharoa and Maramataka, been brought up in both places, and karakia. My mother hails from karakia. And I work in coaching. I started about 9 years ago with the Māori Women's Development Corporation, setting up what they called the hinepreneur space at that time to get whānau into business and also build an arm of coaches to help whānau get through those limiting beliefs, things that may hold them back from establishing their own whānau business.
Awesome. And we might have to come and get some advice from here ourselves. Our kaupapa today is wahine, who run the world. And our conversation today is really about recognising, I suppose, some of the challenges, that wahine face in mental health. And I know for you, Jess, a lot of your mahi counselling is dealing with, I suppose, a lot of our wahine. And so, what are some of these challenges?
I think, for our wahine, particularly in the mental health space, I think first and foremost, the challenge that needs to be acknowledged is colonisation. And, it is the beginning of and the whakapapa of mental health and the way it presents in our whenua. So for our wahine, there is no escaping that reality. That's where we sit, that's where it begins. But I suppose for me at the moment in my role, I work in kahutaurima that wraps around our whānau. And so I spend a lot of time with mama, working in perinatal mental health space. So that's for our mama who are preparing in their haputanga or have just given birth and the changes that happen from that. So I think there is a lot out there. It's hard too when you're working with whānau to just pathologize things all the time. To say it is depression, anxiety, that you have postnatal depression, when the reality is we know it's colonisation, poverty, oppression, and being stuck. Like if you think about a pond of water, if there's no flow, there's no filtration, it gets sick. It needs that flow. And so for our people, we get stuck as wahine, and it's not because we have these things, it's flipping it and actually acknowledging why we're stuck in the first place. So I'd probably preface the kōrero by saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love what you're creating in terms of, you know, the experience of our wahine. You know, I'm just thinking about all the multiple roles that wahine play within our whānau, you know, within our community, and especially the role around, you know, nurturing and caring for whānau. You know, and man, I just think the stresses, you know, the stresses mums must go through, man. And I think about the stresses I must have put on my mum, you know, over her days as I was, you know, growing up myself. And yeah, I'm just like, man, how do we, how can we support our wahine with what they're dealing with? You know, and what support is out there for them?
Mm. That for me.
Yeah. That might be, you know, that one might be for you, Jess. I mean, you know, and what the conversations you get to have with our wahine as well.
Yeah, I think too, you know, I suppose as tangata, we were never designed to do life alone. So when you think about, you know, coming into that period of time where you're having your whānau and you're talking about the roles of, you know, being a mama and a papa and actually having the responsibility of caring for whakapapa, you know, none of that by design was meant to be done in isolation. And so I think whatever you can do, the most simple thing is the reconnection, is to show up, is to be there. I think that, you know, our wahine, we're so wired to be moved by our intuition, by our, you know, pūmanawa. We know things, we roll in that way with some kind of ease. And so it's always, you'll notice that wahine tend to know what someone needs before they say it. They can scan a room. They know, you know, when's the right time to give a hug, a smile, a kai. And I think particularly in that vulnerable time of entering into, you know, mamahood, it's to be seen by those around you. It's a simple thing of just, you know, I see you. I see what you're entering into. Here's the kai. Here I am, my presence, you know, that thing of actually coming together and doing life together. Very fundamental.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing too is you're speaking to the connection, you know, and the importance of, you know, the connection between people. And I'm just thinking back to my upbringing, and you know, we were brought up. We had my dad's older sister lived next door. You know, so as I was growing up, auntie and mum were always there for me, always. And I had auntie that was there for me as well, you know, as well as mum. And I suppose that's what I kind of understand, you know, in Māori communities, and especially in marae and in villages, you know, there is that shared responsibility as well of our in our whānau. But then there's also the shared support that is there for those mums, and the support now. And you know, if I think about my cousin who lives at our papakainga, we've got 5 homes in our papakainga, and one of my cousins has got her and her 5 kids, right? But her older brother lives next door, and then I'm next door. So although these kids don't have a papa, you know, they've got 2 uncles that are there to model for them. But I also see it's the same for our wahine. You know, that my mum's there, my sister's there, my cousin's there, my wife's there. You know, they've got all these different models also for the wahine. But what I really love is the support that they give each other, you know, as wahine as well, that they create a space of support, because they're all going through very, very similar things, right? And supporting each other. And, you know, in terms of our, you know, our wahine, and I suppose a lot of the things that they deal with in their whānau, that there's actually, you know, a lot of opportunity for them to actually be distressed, you know, to experience stress from, you know, what they're trying to accomplish with their whānau a lot of the times. You know, and I'm just like, man, I think in my whole life, I've seen my mum sort of break down, you know, sort of crying, because she didn't have everything sorted and everything under control, you know. And it was in that moment that I realized for me that, oh man, all of this weight has been on my mum's shoulders for her whole life. That she was the eldest of her whānau, so that was also her responsibility for her younger siblings. And then, you know, us as her kids, she had all that responsibility as well, her husband, you know, our health. You know, so I'm like, man, how are our wahine being supported to do these things? And, you know, how really, what kind of impact is this having on their lives? You know, all those roles and responsibilities that they have. And yeah, and so in your mahi, you get to counsel some of these ladies, right? Or some of these wahine.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, in sitting with their story, their pain, you know, I feel like it's not like I'm counseling. We're working together in a lot of ways. You know, there is so many theories and approaches and ways to do something, but it is simply just sitting and being with someone and allowing your lives to connect in that moment, to be present with someone. So connection is such a huge part of what it means to have hauora, what it means to be living well and to be thriving is our connection. And, you know, you'd kind of like mentioning the village. That's such a beautiful and collective way to live. But the reality is most of our world today is so individualized.
Yes.
And it is so kind of driven for the individual experience. So for our whānau, particularly in urban areas, the reality is there isn't this beautiful community, there isn't this village, there isn't whānau around. So to actually be there and kind of show up is massive. So I think, you know, one of the ways is how do we create community within these areas and how do we tap into that?
Yeah.
How do we allow people into our world to get some flow back to our life, you know?
Yeah. And what I'm getting to is that that flow can happen when you've got a mean-ass support crew around you. You know, that's really the opportunity we have. And I know for you too, Natasha, and some of the work you do, because you do a lot of one-on-one work as well. Sometimes we'll work with whānau as well. But, you know, when you're working one-on-one with our wahine, what are some of the things that you find that they're dealing with in their lives? Yeah.
Oh, there's a range of none of the coaching sessions are ever the same, but there are themes that seem to come through as they drive through, and probably one of the critical things that comes through from a lot of the wahine that I'm working with that also are struggling with addiction, doing a lot of work in the space of addiction. So one of the critical things is I'm not a clinician, and I didn't go and do psychology and stuff. I've been trained in the coaching space, so it's a bit different because I'm not in the
condition,
in that space. But what I do love is that I do believe that there's a space for all of them. That when they work together, there's this really valuable, powerful space that I'm working in the present moment. We often don't. We speak about. We talked about coping mechanisms, those sort of things. We go into that space, but my work is getting them to see reality in the present times, like working through this present time when you're feeling that mama and your puku, and it's happening from when you were 4, but you're feeling it now and you're 45. We've got to understand those distinctive differences in there. So a lot of it, there's a lot of addiction in the space that I work with, and getting to understand addiction differently, especially because it's happened with one of my nieces who was an amazing mama, and then all of a sudden fell into this space of addiction with four babies, and it wasn't the person that we even used that even was brought up in that space. So it can happen just like that without you knowing. And working with her and understanding in me, thinking, just get back to how you were. You were amazing. Like, that was my thinking. But I've got to understand what addiction really is, and how it becomes. And I developed this empathy for places of addiction. We all have, whether it is drinking, drug, overworking. People, there's acceptable. There's acceptable addiction, and there's non-acceptable. People think just because it's drug-related or alcohol, it's really, really bad. But overworking, porn, all these other things. There are so many things that are, you know, that we indulge in just to make us feel better in that moment. And that's what addiction is about. You know, I had a eating disorder. I was 68 kgs bigger than this over 18 months ago. And when I work with clients, they say, oh, your addiction is different because, you know, I've got a drug addiction. You eat, there's no difference in them. It's exactly the same thing, but the society tells you what's right, and if you overwork that it's all right, but it's not. It's not an addiction. You're still doing things, but in that moment, when you talk about addiction, you know, and I say to people, what does the addiction do for you? Not why it's wrong, because then they can get into the space, well, it takes me away from feeling the pain. It makes me not think about those things. You know, when you talk about it in that way, they end up being so much kinder to themselves, because that's the thing, is they really hold that addiction against themselves, like, I'm not good enough, I'm hopeless, I've destroyed everything. So I'll go to these classes that will make me feel better just in that moment. So addiction has been a space for me to really, really come out of this coaching space and go, wow, I didn't even understand all this.
What a cool question to ask, you know, what is that actually providing you, rather than looking at it from a deficit of what is that actually giving you in the moment. And I think, you know, when you mentioned back to kind of coping things then, the experience that happened to you in 4 and why is it playing out at 45? Well, I suppose what's actually going on for us in our body is trauma is just so powerful, right? And we had ways of shifting and moving trauma. Kia ora, Uncle colonisation, they got taken away. And so we're here in this present moment, we work top down, so we diagnose and then we kind of work back down to the core. But what's happening in our body is, you know, our brain's one job is to keep us alive. It's its sole job. So it does an incredible job of that. And so trauma kind of trapped at age 4 or age 6 or whatever age that trauma is, our brain doesn't go, oh, wait, calm down, everyone. That's a memory. We're fine. No. What it does, it goes, oh, we're in danger. We need to respond immediately. We need to send all of our resources to our vital organs so we can hit the gap, so we can save ourselves. We need to turn our thinking brain off. We need to just kind of, you know, survive. Yeah. And so, again, that's another place that we get stuck as wahine. And what I'd say probably what I notice in mahi is that for wahine, we often internalize our experiences. So they aren't always picked up very quickly because we tend to hold well. We're like po. We're built to kind of hold ground and to hold the place sturdy. So we internalize a lot of experience, and then for whatever reason, a trigger happens. We're chucked back here. We have no ability to think in that moment. We don't know what to do. We don't know who to go for help. And often, you know, the places that have been available for Māori wahine aren't help. Yes. And we have to acknowledge that, you know, it's not about harping on about any issues. It's about being real so that we can resource and allow and give space to the things that actually bring us wellness.
Yeah, man, and what I'm getting to is that's an intentional process. Bringing wellness is an intentional process, like gathering water. That water's not going to gather itself and make it to your whare. No, you're going to have a whole strategy and a process and a, you know, in a way to make that happen, a structure. You know, and it was interesting how you were sharing too about you made as wahine, you made the whole, you're the whare tangata. Yeah, you made it.
We're good at it.
Oh, you know,
not in a great way.
Yeah, and you know what's really cool is, you know, I can hear the commitment to having our wahine being held as well. You know, they need a space to be held in as well. And you know, that brings me to my next question about, you know, how a clinical lens can actually contribute to women's mental health care. You know, and you were kind of sharing about it before, right? How we can, you know, support our wahine and and so how does that support our wahine? Like
That's a great question, because sometimes I think, not. Yeah, exactly. No, I think that there are, there are aspects, but it's not like, okay, so how I think of it in clinical senses, clinical often means knowledge, but if you take that and you make it Matauranga, so the embodiment of that, then it's
nice.
It's more than just a one-dimensional thing. So if it's helpful to know what our body does in trauma. It's helpful to understand what happens in addiction. And there are some incredible Māori who have researched this clinically and have created incredible tools. I think about, the addiction mahi, and I think about Dr. Andre McLaughlin and his work with Dr. Waikare Moana around paitata paitawhiti. There is these ways of working that have some clinical aspect, and they help to create movement. Yeah. So I think, to know things is great, but to embody them is even better. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Te whakatīrana. and that's really the trick for us, right? As Māori, it's like we take it past the intellectual knowing and we bring it right into the being. And that's the opportunity that we have here. Not just for our wahine, but for our whānau. But man, I love what you're sharing about, about wahine, and about, I suppose, the different experiences that wahine have as well, and I think it might have been you saying too, Natasha, about, whenever you're having conversations with these wahine, you're kind of like, well, I'm not the source of all knowledge, I don't have all the answers here, but you're actually in the inquiry with them, right? And that you're sort of becoming like this other version of them, asking the questions, like just becoming this non-judgmental questionnaire, or this this inquiry for them to be able to start like looking at their own selves and like how they've been showing up, and and I'm just like really interested to see how our wahine can actually like I suppose take, well, it feels like taking control of their I suppose of what they want to create in their lives. But for you and in the conversations that you have, what is that? What are those conversations like?
I always like, even before we start a session, I always say to them that as a coach, I never have the answers for anybody, because I couldn't possibly ever say to someone, what's good for you is this, because that's not my role. My role is to question them powerfully so that they can understand and answer for themselves. Because they always say, question them powerfully, because everything is within them. We always think, because I always learnt this, when you're confused, confusion is a lie, because confusion is fear. Fear rises up. So when fear rises up, it jiggles with you, tells you, what you're doing, So when fear rises up, you feel confused. And I always think confusion isn't there. That when you actually settle yourself by breathing, doing that, I got taught it was hi ki roto e ha ki waho, not ha ki roto e hi. Breathing in is the wahine, and then breathing out is the tane. So that's something that I was taught through that. I always say to them that you have the answers within you, and that when I pass them the questions to question things, like, do you really think that your mum despised you? Like, asking the questions and figuring out, because again, the reticular activator, when they're looking for something, they're going to find it. When they've gone through an experience, and I go, see, I told you, she don't like me. Every time I come here, she stares at me like that. You're only ever going to look for that, and you're going to find it. So when you go in and start to look at it differently and go, okay, I'm just going to check out, is she really looking like that? And then she smiles at me, and you go, I saw the smile for the first time, like those sorts of things. You really start to see it in every part of your life, because you can see it differently. So the questioning is, you have to question them powerfully, get them to say, is it absolutely true that happened? Because could they have been thinking in other ways? you know, and then they'll start to say, well, actually, they might not have been angry with me. They might have had something going on. So they looked at me like that.
And there's the movement.
Yeah, and then that starts to jiggle. And then it's like something drops away every single time that freedom comes. This, you know, well, I know Bob Marley spoke about that in his way of saying, you know.
Yeah.
And so when you're freeing your mind, everything else is, I always got taught you had a brain there, but this is your brain too. That they're both your brain, and that when you always feel something in your body before you even start to think about it. But often we're told it's from here down, and start to feel that puku before you even start to think.
Ooh, I love what you're creating here, because now you're starting to think. You're starting to combine puku with mind. Now this is a very Māori philosophy we're talking about here, right? And I think this is one that scientists are starting to click on now.
Yeah.
That there's actually brain cells in the puku and in the Maramataka and the ngakau.
And the laugh.
You know, there's got a triplet going on here.
Yes,
Right? And this is a very, I suppose, Māori philosophy. And like, how do you think these types of Māori philosophies, like this, the pū manawa, the lāpau, and this korero, how do you think that is impacting, you know, women's health? Because I think this is connecting everything here now, right?
So in the coaching, when I say coaching, people think, oh yeah, it's coaching, but there's many different models that I use. So I use the ipu, which is, you know, the frequency of that bowl, depending on who it is. Because some people might not want that, but you can tell who wants it. And then when you do the ipu with a bit of a pau and things like that, it's got the frequency of karanga. So that opens up different channels too. So there's, you know, the coaching is one part of it. I think it's really important, but everything about who we are in Māori, bringing in different elements that help whānau make sense of what's going on with them, because the ones that I work with, majority of them have not been brought up around their Te Ao Māori side. They haven't been brought up on the side. They haven't been, or if they have, other things in their life have impacted. And so, you know, there's a lot of trauma in their childhood years and stuff. So, yeah, I think it's really important that we utilise our stories, the way that our whole body and everything around us is healing, not just having a conversation like that. There's lots of senses, all our senses going on at once when we're doing this mahi. Then outside of that, there's other things going on, you know, that we're starting to create with karakia and things like that whānau aren't used to just using as part of their everyday too. But just back to the nice, I mean, it might be basic, but karakia is so powerful. I've learnt it myself. Like, you know, my grandparents taught us that. And it's something that I've never forgotten, even if I don't have full-on drill. I've never forgotten about the karakia that was taught to us to do every single time to just help us reconnect ourselves and go, okay, yeah, let's go on this journey.
Beautiful. That's beautiful what you're sharing, Natasha, and especially around the karakia side too. You know, because I think we fully underestimate the power of karakia to create the world that we're in, right? You know, and I think that's one of the most powerful sort of tools, you know, that our tupuna have given us is to create these intentional declarations, you know, that basically lay out our purpose and, you know, the actions that we're taking inside of the context we're creating in the karakia. You know, and I think that's one of the real powerful things about karakia. And then, man, when I think about, you know, other Ao Māori philosophies too, you know, karakia, I'm just even thinking about our creation story, right? And the call I'm hearing lots and lots, especially from our man, I got to mention you too, Timoti Pahi. You know, I read the Grace post on Facebook all the time, man, and a lot of time he's clearing up, you know, a lot of these atua wahine that are no longer acknowledged, you know, ngā atua rei. And I mean, this is part of the conversation we're having too. You know, there's all these, you know, feminine, female elements to everything
Yeah.
You know, that we've lost and we forget. You know, that we ourselves are matriarchal people.
Yeah.
That, you know, when the whare tangata is not whare tangata, like there's nothing about it, then this is really,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just like, we require some massive reminders, you know, about the status of our wahine. And I think, you know, these, this conversation here around, you know, our Te Ao Māori philosophies is really important for us to get back. And, you know, in a previous episode, we had Rawiri come in here and Waretini Harina, and he spoke about, you know, we go all the way in our whakapapa, all the way back to you.
Yeah.
You know, that's who we read.
Yeah.
You know, and our inherent connection to everything that is. And, you know, and our awesomeness, you know, that we're born with, that we are that awesomeness. And beyond that, we are actually one. You know, we are actually one. And then our Te Ao Māori philosophies inside of what Te Hei Kroko and Te Tuakiritanga wrote.
Yeah.
This is basically what she's talking about. And that she'd highlighted when she talks about Te Tuakiritanga. And I know there's that whāingaroa, right? Te Hei Kroko. And that's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if she said some connections with him before. You know, in terms of, and I can't bring her name up because we're talking about wahine, and there's one example of a wahine that, you know, committed herself to Matauranga, to education. And she actually, along with a few other wahine from out of Whangaroa, created the Potama Rites of Passage Trust, right? Which are creating rights for men. And I mean, you know, how good is that we have wahine creating rights for men? It's just the power of our wahine, right? This is the power that's no longer acknowledged. Yeah. And so for, you know, in terms of wahine running the world, you know, and our younger wahine who are coming up now, you know, with all the challenges they face in this new kind of digital technical society that we live in. What are some of the challenges for our younger wahine, for, you know, our kōtiro, for our kōhine who are coming up now?
A good question. I don't know. Before probably diving into that, I mean, we were having a kōrero before we came in about, you know, when you were talking about atua wahine, or kind of having that kōrero as well, just realizing that even in the mahi that we, you know, what we have is kind of tangible, available resources, ngā atua tāne. And so, you know, I think probably some of the ways that we can help wahine within our own circles and in our own hapu iwi marae is to have those hard kōrero around that. Do we actually acknowledge wahine? How do we do that? You know, because we are a matriarchal people, but some of the way that we move is still patriarchal within our own. So I think those are some brave conversations to have that require a lot of heart and accountability and all the things that we love to do.
Yeah.
But for our younger, our kōtiro, I mean, I think that there is the challenges if we just land on social media.
Yep.
You know, when we come to our tuakiritanga, our worth and our identity, it's a big kind of maunga to stand in front of and go, yeah, that's a challenge, because there is so much out there, so much information, so much to kind of not pit yourself against, but compare yourself to. And so you think about then it's the need for the connection to be wrapped around our younger ones as well, to kind of remind them of their worth, their identity, who they are, in spite of what they might see or compare to. Because it's huge out there. It's a big conversation to have. I would say but as that is rising, so too are some of the most beautiful wahine we have in our whenua at the moment are our young ones.
Yeah.
You know, they are just inspiring. Not so long ago, I sat in a hui and there was a couple of wahine there from, I think it was Kura Arotea, and just hearing them as young people share introduce themselves, speak about their dreams, their passions. One had a business idea, wanted to be a midwife. Like the future is bright. And I think that there is a lot that have been things that have been held in karakia for years and years and years and years that we're starting to see the fruit of in our young wahine.
Wow. Man, when you were talking about our young wahine, straight away I was like, oh yeah, man, I might be man. It's also an example of the potential, right? And what I know for Hannah is a lot of her success is actually based on her research and her commitment to Maramataka. Which is like Matauranga Māori hoki tenda. This is a very Te Ao Māori perspective on the world. And I think that's one of the cool things she brings. Is like she's just made it like normal to be Māori, and to live your life in this Māori framework, in this Maramataka framework, and living your life by Maramataka and still being able to live in the Western parliament system. It's just like, wow, that's amazing examples. More and more now, I'm actually seeing wahine as just being these amazing examples of what's possible, for people. And like when I look at our tribal organization, right? Well, man, he wahine te rangatira, o waikato Tainui, ko whae turenki, wahine,
Yeah.
I look around a lot of our organizations and tribal organizations, even our marae, like wahine run our part too. I'm just like, man, this is the Māori world, that we've been waiting for. And I think, we still got a long way to go there, but there's just some great examples that are there for us. And what I'm thinking about, health and hauora and well-being, for our wahine, even, as I mentioned before, they're even at the forefront of, pointing our men back in the direction, poking the rights and passes, right? And I was like, when I was told that, nā te hei koko, and, these other wahine, they created this, I was like, wow. I just thought there was some onto it Māori man that was just like, I was like, you're wahine anō. And of course, my whānau was super matriarchal. I mean, we're still singing the praises of Nana Te Puia now. It's still the ultimate example. And there aren't too many trying to step up to that level either. And then we've got Hannah, awesome. It's time for us to bring many, many, many more through.
Yeah.
But this has been an awesome conversation, and I've got to really get a few things for myself as well. And just to, I suppose, wrap it up with us for our wahine who run the world conversation. Just any final words or something that you think might make a difference for our whānau having a listen to this particular podcast.
My mind is still stuck on Hannah when she said, I had to leave the garden for you lot. Such love.
Hey, that's the finish it all.
I know. You get it, girl.
Awesome.
My encouragement would be, if you feel in a stagnant place, do one thing to allow some movement. One thing, reach out in one place, in one area. Don't look at the whole, just the one thing, and do what is possible for you in that one moment.
Awesome. Yeah, focus one direction and move. Move. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And who chooses to move? You choose to move, right? They choose to move. Thank you very much. Awesome korero, Jess. And for you, Natasha?
Yeah, very similar. I guess I keep going back to Parekoikoi. She's the hope, the glimmering light. But there's this little bit of light when you feel like there's nobody else around that understands you, or nobody else around to help you. That we were always taught this, that there is always some sort of light, and for that light is, when you're standing inside and you go outside and the light's on, you go outside at night, and then it's really dark and you still can't see where you're going, but your eyes start to adjust to where you are. That's very quickly. There's always a place for you. And I love what you said about, just do one thing. One thing we talk about is that you actually just shrink things down to something that is achievable. Like because everything's too overwhelming. When you shrink it down and shrink it down and shrink it down, sometimes people are like, well, shrink it down to one thing. What if that's just changing one word? That's not much. I'm like, yeah, that is. Because you're shifting and moving. So, you know, kore kukui, she's always there, and she will always guide anybody through that darkness.
Oh, kia ora, Natasha. Pare koi koi, you're all a man, awesome. Just when you think there's only darkness, there's always a glitter of light, eh?
Definitely. Definitely.
Well, tēnā kōrua. Thank you both very much for your awesome insights and for this conversation. And he mihi nui hoki tēnei kia koutou e mātakitaki mai ana. Yeah, this has been our WāHINE episode for Te Kura Arotea. Can we talk for a minute? Thank you for your few minutes of talking, WāHINE man. Mate wā e te whānau.